Just keep moving!
Taylor Ripley, hold on!
The Alien franchise originally was rooted more in horror rather than action, with the 1979 original standing out during a time when horror films were rather standard, utilizing an abundance of shock value along with predictable narratives. Ridley Scott's Alien broke conventions by bringing viewers in unfamiliar territory, by emphasizing concepts that are largely known to us, space exploration along with the mystery that comes with it. These themes are epitomized with the groundbreaking Alien, which is true to its name. Designed by H.R. Geiger, the xenomorph was designed to be completely unlike any creature found here on Earth. In recent times, the xenomorph has more or less become a cultural icon, and through this process, it lost elements that made the creature alien to viewers. And this is where we enter a project which strived to replicate Ridley Scott's original vision. Enter Alien Isolation.
Last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.
Generally speaking, as we know, game adaptations from film aren't well received. Mostly they're resigned to shovelware, only developed for the sake of marketing. This is where Alien Isolation makes a unique departure, by not only capturing the tone and experience of the film, but rather be innovative on its own spin on survival horror. Like the film before it, Alien Isolation doesn't rely on simple cues to frighten viewers, but it's more spontaneous by making use of its lighting, level design, environment, and AI that's championed to this day. The game takes the predator and prey relationship in a unique perspective by using procedurally generated encounters. Developed by the Creative Assembly, Alien Isolation was a bit of a deviation for the studio, well known for their work on the real-time strategy via the Total War series. The development of the game first began in December of 2006 when Sega acquired the rights to develop Alien games. At first, Creative Assembly began to work on a small pitch to Sega, a simple hide-and-seek prototype, where players had to use concealment and stealth from an encroaching alien. The pitch managed to sway the eyes of Sega, and the project was greenlit. However, the studio found themselves in unfamiliar waters, never before handling a project that dealt with survival horror. They managed to hire developers with experience they needed from other studios, and with the new manpower, Creative Assembly's new Alien project became much more ambitious. Deriving a deep influence from the 1979 original Alien film, the studio wished to stay true to Ridley Scott's work. To this end, Fox provided Creative Assembly with 3 terabytes of original production material to costumes, concept art, set designs, and original sound recordings of the first film. The developers would use this material to construct the atmosphere that would make Alien Isolation faithful to its source material. Likewise, the film's soundtrack was also deconstructed, which provided the studio a means to write a score that feels like an expansion to the film's soundtrack. Needless to say, with all this material at Creative Assembly's disposal, they went to work on recreating the setting of the original Alien film. Looking at the game aesthetically, you can see how the game stays true to the 70s vision of what the future would look like, filled with clunky yet pristine machinery like phone receivers and distorted displays. In fact, Creative Assembly went so far as recording animations on VHS to display them on in-game monitors. If anything, their pursuit for authenticity is admirable. The passion found in Alien Isolation's presentation can be displayed by one of the game's artists, John McKellen, who stated, "We had this rule, if a prop couldn't be made in 1979 with the things they had around, then we wouldn't make them either." And this principle holds true on how the game first opens out of a hypersleep chamber. Looking closely at the attention to detail on recreating this universe is commendable. Moving on to the game's narrative, Creative Assembly wished to tell a story that was linked to the film, hence the game's plot beginning 15 years after the events of the first Alien. Isolation follows the tale of Ellen Ripley's daughter, Amanda. Admittedly, I really like how the studio managed to incorporate Amanda in the greater Alien universe. Interestingly enough, Amanda was already a character in the series, with her being alluded to in James Cameron's Aliens and being mentioned in the novelization of Alien Resurrection. The writers of Creative Assembly would go on to state their pleasure in telling a story of an overlooked character within the Alien universe. And speaking of Ripley, Sigourney Weaver agreed to reprise her role as Ellen within sections of the game, since she saw Isolation's story to be rather fascinating. Plus, the rest of the original cast of the film reprised their roles in the subsequent DLCs, but more on that later. Looking at the game's presentation for the last time, I really admire how well the game is optimized. Alien Isolation ran on an engine built from scratch, catered to accommodate lighting effects that were innovative for the time. The engine incorporated deferred rendering, which allowed the use of hundreds of dynamic lights in a scene. In practice, this design choice works very well. Notice the lighting within the game, how it frames exploration, characters, and later gameplay. And that leads us to the alien's AI. Which was programmed with complex behavioral designs that accustom to players' encounters. In fact, the developers wanted the alien within the game to seem like it learns from the player. Designer Gary Napper noted that, "We needed something that would look very different every time you played it. You're gonna die a lot, which means restarting a lot, and if the alien was scripted, you'd see the same behavior. That makes the alien become predictable and a lot less scary." With all these design choices in mind, to staying true to its source material, the game's use of dynamic lighting, along with the alien AI, made Isolation a hit among critics. However, how well does the game hold up now? The game opens up with a short monologue of Ellen Ripley connecting the game to the first film in the process. The plot focuses on exactly what happened to her along with the ship Nostromo. Those who watched the film would know exactly what took place. But in the perspective of Amanda, it was still a big mystery. But a clue came up in the found flight recorder unit of the Nostromo. Wanting to figure out what happened to her mother, Amanda, along with the ship Torrens, headed to the Sevastopol station. And this is where the game actually begins. When attempting to board, Amanda was cut off by her fellow crew. Trying to get help, she discovered that something really odd is happening within the station. This is where we head to the game's tutorial section, which disguises itself with the character Axel. Starting off hostile, he manages to teach Amanda several mechanics that would prove useful later in the game. Axel's last statement to Amanda before his death marks as a great last piece of advice to the player.
You killed that guy!
Because he was going to kill me, you saved my life. This is about survival. Do you understand?
What I find about Isolation that's particularly unique is that the game seldom pauses to tell its story. Rather, gameplay and the narrative are linked. A game I'd compare this to is Metroid Prime, belonging to a series that was inspired by the Alien films. The title largely tells the story via logs and environmental cues. Alien Isolation is similar to this extent that it incorporates this to a world that doesn't pause. You can find computer logs that'll give you more info, but the alien might spot you while you're reading. The alien AI arguably is more comfortable in this game's level design than you are. Unlike human NPCs or the robot worker Joes, the alien can't be killed. But there's certainly ways to distract it, like using noisemakers and flashbangs. But these are only distractions. There are ways to irritate the alien, such as throwing Molotovs at it, but this only makes the alien run away for a short while, buying you time to run off to a safer location. In terms of level design, the game makes amazing use of its lighting effects, being in maze-like dark environments contrasted by glimmering sterile lights. Alien Isolation plays a unique game of cat and mouse. You're walking around and crouching speeds are fairly slow, and any sounds that you make are liable to give you away. The alien, by contrast, travels like he owns the place. In terms of the design, the alien is beautifully animated. Its composure strikes as a prime hunter. The way its tail coils resembles that of a snake. And the sound design corresponding to this creature matches this. To the sounds of an encroaching alien along with its breath. On that note, I'd like to recommend playing this game with headphones, not only for the stellar score, but also the sound design. Hearing creaking metal along with Sevastopol Station's decaying atmosphere is well done. Additionally, I also like how the game really wants you to appreciate the environment, not just in an aesthetic perspective, but how the interiors are designed to navigate them. This can best be described when you receive the motion tracker, which acts as one of your most handy tools across your journey. As the name implies, you can spot movement from others, which forces you to quickly recognize the layout of your immediate surroundings. But within dark environments, this can become difficult. You can find maps as you travel along. However, when pulling it up, it pauses the game, which I found a bit jarring. Almost every other mechanic, whether it be using a computer, doing maintenance work, or even saving, keeps the game going in the background. But looking at a map pauses all of it, which breaks immersion. Personally, I think the map collection should have been incorporated with the motion tracker. For example, to search maps with the motion tracker only to use said tracker to find another map to explore with, which may or may not intensify exploration. On saving, Alien Isolation takes a unique spin on it. Saving is largely regulated on checking in on these phone receivers. And once you get further on in the game, you're essentially saving at your own risk, since if enemies spot you while you're saving, you're in for a frustrating experience. If anything else, the game really wants you to play things more methodically, and the save feature is incorporated with this concept. Admittedly, this is a bold feature, but I find that this mechanic adds to the survival horror aesthetic by making players want to survive more by giving some consequences upon death. In the process, making life something you want to protect, which makes the alien that much more threatening. Moving on to gameplay centered on the alien, I really like this game's approach on survival horror. As opposed to other games which utilize an abundance of scripted events, the alien AI acts as an interesting departure. There's ways to handle human characters along with the robot worker Joes, utilizing guns, EMPs, or other means of combat. But using a direct method such as this would attract the alien, which can't be killed. Later on within the game, you receive the flamethrower. However, it eats up ammunition very quickly. On that note, supplies are in scarce amount, which brings me to my next point. Alien Isolation makes use of a crafting system which is useful to develop health packs and other tools that'll prove useful on your playthrough. Supplies can typically be found either laying about or in storage containers. Personally, I like this addition since again it ties in with the save feature mentioned previously along with other survival horror elements. You want to preserve your life as much as possible, and a part of that includes gaining enough supplies for med packs, and the only way to get them is to look for supplies. In short, a neat feedback loop of gameplay is created in the process, which includes exploration, stealth, and preservation. In short, the game wants you to play the stealth role as efficiently as possible, and this leads to how the alien AI complements this approach. The alien is the most terrifying when it's not seen, but if the alien sees you, your death is almost assured. Combining these elements together creates a unique scenario. When playing through, you're required to survey the environment, tracking down any individuals within the area. And if anything should go wrong when the alien appears, knowing your way around the map and using any method for escape becomes key to survival. The environment is its own character. Combined with a faithful recreation of the film's atmosphere, this game is a real treat to play. In terms of exploration, you make use of plenty of tools to make your way across the station, such as wrenches, cutting torches, etc. These tools act as neat devices to travel to new places, almost in a Metroidvania-like manner. Playing through this, I found Alien Isolation as a great adaptation. In a world where games that are adapted from film generally don't do well, Alien Isolation almost strikes like a sequel to the original film. However, the game is at its best when it stands on its own merits. This title would be engaging even if it wasn't based on the Alien property. Moving on to the game's DLC packs, I was a bit surprised. Personally, I thought these expansions would follow up on the game's ending, but they act more like innovative ideas on the gameplay found within the base game. But there is a sense of novelty found within these expansions. It includes actors found within the original film. Personally, I think those who are big fans of the original film, as I am, will like these packs more. With that being said, I do like how these packs manage to intensify Isolation's gameplay concepts, such as combining worker Joes along with the alien in level design that manages to complement each other. The first two packs create two scenes from the original film. The first of which, Crew Expendable, takes place during the time when the Nostromo crew attempts to flush out the alien onto the ship's airlock, while the second pack, Last Survivor, takes place during the film's ending, which is centered on Ripley as she escapes the Nostromo's self-destruction, along with reaching the escape shuttle. The rest of the packs expand on the game's Survivor mode, along with the gameplay concepts found within the base game. Speaking of Survivor mode, as the name suggests, it takes the game's narrative out of the equation. As such, it's a challenge-based mode which heightens elements pertaining to the game's level design, but it also adds elements such as gaining bonuses on speed, item collection, in addition to other factors. This mode was expanded on with DLC. If anything, Survivor mode acts as a challenge for those who finished the base game. So with all that being said and done, would I recommend Alien Isolation? Absolutely. The game's unique spin on survival horror along with its presentation is executed phenomenally. Plus, if you're an Alien fan, as I am, the game does have throwbacks to previous characters of the original film. I really like how Sigourney Weaver, along with the rest of the cast, reprise their roles here. Sigourney, in particular, really sounds like she cares about voicing Ellen again here. However, the game's not without its flaws. Some of the AI on humans and Worker Joes can become a bit nonsensical, but they weren't enough to detract from the overall experience. I believe Alien Isolation's goal was to recreate the atmosphere of the original film in a gameplay format, and to this end, Creative Assembly succeeded. In short, I would recommend giving this game a shot, and who knows, you might like what you experience. The Alien franchise has seen many iterations within its universe. To the more action-oriented themes spawned by James Cameron's Aliens, or Ridley Scott's more horror-themed approach, along with everything in between. Alien Isolation marks as a great example of what a game adaptation on a film can be like. Not only staying true to its source material, but expanding on it in ways a film cannot accomplish.